In the summer of 2026, we saw one of the most surprising reunions in modern football, as Florentino Perez brought Jose Mourinho back to Real Madrid 13 years after their first spell together ended.
And it's about Jose Mourinho because it's been confirmed he will become the new Real Madrid manager.
Yeah, I think they did. I think Florentino Perez still has Jose Mourinho in really high esteem, and they've never stopped talking since Mourinho left the club a few years ago. They still stayed in good terms, and I think there's a lot of things that Florentino Perez likes about Jose Mourinho, like that leadership.
While for newer fans, it's their first time seeing this duo work together, older Madrid fans will remember the Special One's tenure very well.
In Real Madrid, I had my best team in direct counter-attack because I had young Di Maria, young Ronaldo, young Higuain, and young Benzema. We killed everybody in offensive transition.
What's crazy is that the situation Mourinho inherited in 2026 feels very similar to the one he walked into 16 years earlier. Perez made it very clear that he wanted an experienced, authoritative manager to take Real Madrid into the next era. To bring Mourinho back to the Santiago Bernabeu, Real Madrid activated the 15 million euros release clause in his Benfica contract, ending his spell in Portugal. It was an expensive move for a manager, but one Perez believed was necessary. Madrid's recruitment strategy focused on building a squad that perfectly matched Mourinho's footballing philosophy. The club strengthened the back line by signing Cucurella, Dumfries, and Konate. Then they brought in Bernardo Silva to give some control and composure to the midfield. They even went after Diomande and Rodri, showing just how much faith Perez had in the Special One. The confidence came from the fact that the two worked together from 2010 to 2013. When Mourinho first arrived, Real Madrid were struggling to compete with Pep Guardiola's dominant Barcelona and had suffered 6 straight Champions League exits in the round of 16. Like, we now know Real Madrid as the kings of European football, but back then, they were worse than what we've seen recently from Barca in that competition.
Barcelona were winning a league every year. They had this young side, they had this young coach. And so if you're Real Madrid and you've spent an absolute fortune in the previous sort of 7 or 8 years, and you look at Barcelona and you think, what do we do? How do we stop this?
Perez understood that assembling world-class players wasn't enough. The team needed actual structure, accountability, and a manager strong enough to demand complete commitment from every player. At the time, Mourinho was at the peak of his powers, having just led Inter to a historic treble. In fact, they had won the Champions League by beating Pep's Barca in the semi-finals. The transformation began immediately during his first transfer window. Working closely with Perez, Mourinho helped assemble a squad built around pace, physicality, and devastating counterattacks. Angel Di Maria arrived to provide speed on the wings, while Mesut Ozil added creativity between the lines. Then there was Sami Khedira, who brought energy and physicality to the midfield, and Ricardo Carvalho reunited with Mourinho to add leadership and defensive organization at the back. Together, those signings formed the backbone of a dangerous 4-2-3-1 system that perfectly matched Mourinho's tactical philosophy. The first major breakthrough came less than a year later. In the 2010-2011 Copa del Rey final against Pep Guardiola's Barcelona, Mourinho's Real Madrid finally ended Barca's dominance in a massive game at Mestalla. It was Angel Di Maria who delivered a pinpoint cross in extra time, and Ronaldo rose highest to dunk over everyone with the winning header in the 103rd minute. It was Real Madrid's first trophy in 3 years, but the most important thing about that win was that it gave the squad belief. After years of falling short to Pep's Barca, Mourinho had shown his players that the seemingly unstoppable rivals could be beaten on the biggest stage. Now, the 2011-2012 season is widely regarded as one of the greatest domestic campaigns in Real Madrid's history, and one of the most dominant league seasons European football has ever seen. Mourinho's side not only won La Liga, but they shattered record after record on their way to the title. They finished the season with an incredible 100 points, winning 32 of their 38 league matches, while losing just twice. They scored 121 goals, averaging more than 3 goals per game, and ended the campaign with a ridiculous plus 89 goal difference. Away from home, they were just as ruthless, winning 16 of their 19 league matches on the road. The secret behind that success was Mourinho's devastating transition game. Whenever Madrid won possession, the ball moved forward almost instantly. Xabi Alonso and Sami Khedira formed the perfect midfield partnership, combining defensive solidity with two players that had outstanding passing range. Their job was simple: regain the ball, release it quickly, and led Madrid's attacking stars do the damage. Ahead of them, Mesut Ozil became the creative heartbeat of this team, while Di Maria stretched defenses with his pace and direct running. Then leading the line, Cristiano Ronaldo, Karim Benzema, and Gonzalo Higuain formed one of the most lethal attacks in modern football, combining for 89 La Liga goals between them. Higuain and Benzema rotated, while Ronaldo did the most damage up front. The best moment of the season came on April 21st, 2012. Needing a win to all but secure the league title, Real Madrid traveled to the Camp Nou to face Pep Guardiola's Barcelona in one of the biggest El Clasicos in recent history. Messi versus Ronaldo, Pep versus Mourinho, that was peak football, man. Mourinho's side rose to the occasion, beating Barca 2-1 in their own stadium. It was Ronaldo who scored the decisive goal before delivering his iconic Calma celebration. A few weeks later, Real Madrid were officially crowned La Liga champions. More than just ending Barcelona's dominance, Mourinho's team had rewritten the Spanish record books. The 100-point season became the benchmark for excellence, proving that Real Madrid could not only compete with Guardiola's Barcelona, but surpass them over the course of an entire league campaign. The problem was that after reaching the peak of Spanish football, Mourinho's final season in charge quickly unraveled. What had been one of Europe's most dominant teams became consumed by dressing room tension, constant media attention, and disappointing results. Years later, Mourinho would describe the 2012-2013 campaign as one of the worst seasons of his managerial career. The biggest problems came behind the scenes. Mourinho's relationship with several senior players deteriorated, most notably the club captain Iker Casillas. In one of the most controversial decisions of his time at Real Madrid, Mourinho dropped the legendary goalkeeper in favor of Antonio Adan, before later bringing in Diego Lopez as the new first-choice keeper. That decision really split the fan base and dominated headlines across Spain, with many believing Mourinho had gone too far.
Mourinho had this obsession of there was a mole in the dressing room, that the team was being leaked. And so he goes in the dressing room, he picks up a can of Red Bull, hurls it against the wall, where it smashes and sprays sticky soft drink over everybody. So there was this sort of moment of stunned silence.
His relationship with other key figures also became strained. There were well-publicized disagreements with Sergio Ramos, while Mourinho even admitted that Cristiano Ronaldo sometimes struggled to accept tactical criticism.
By the time that Mourinho's reign is ending at Real Madrid, it's arguments, it's discord, it's picking fights with Pepe, picking fights with Iker Casillas, picking fights with Cristiano Ronaldo. It seemed to me to be incomprehensible. It seemed to me to be a manager in sporting breakdown, because you're paid to magnify your own assets, not diminish them.
The unity that had driven Madrid to the 100-point title a year earlier was beginning to disappear. Off the pitch, Mourinho's confrontational style only added to the chaos. The biggest moment coming during the Spanish Super Cup against Barca, when he poked Barcelona assistant coach Tito Vilanova in the eye. That incident became one of the defining images of the rivalry and attracted more criticism from across the football world.
Terrible scenes of, Jose pulling Tito Vilanova in the eye.
One of the most balanced men in football gets his eye poked. Take the name Jose Mourinho out of that. If you saw that at school or on the street or in some YouTube video, you'd say, well, that person's a piece of scum.
The problem soon showed up in Madrid's results as well on the pitch. After winning La Liga the previous season, Real Madrid finished 15 points behind Barcelona in the title race. They also suffered a painful defeat to city rivals Atletico Madrid in the Copa del Rey final at the Santiago Bernabeu, before once again falling short in Europe, losing to Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League semi-finals. It was the third consecutive season Mourinho had guided Madrid to the Final Four without reaching the final. By May of 2013, the relationship had run its course. Florentino Perez announced that Mourinho would leave the club by mutual agreement, bringing an end to one of the most dramatic managerial spells in Real Madrid's modern history. Despite the difficult ending, Mourinho's achievements could not be ignored. Across 178 matches, he won 127 games, while recording an outstanding 71.9% win rate, averaging 2.30 points per game. During his 3 seasons, he delivered a La Liga title, a Copa del Rey, and a Spanish Super Cup, while consistently taking Real Madrid deep into the Champions League. Because remember, although they didn't win anything under Mourinho, before him, they couldn't even get past the round of 16. Yes, his departure may have been messy, but his impact on the club was undeniable. Mourinho inherited a Real Madrid side struggling to compete with Pep Guardiola's Barca, and left behind a team that believed it could beat anyone. In fact, it was his core that helped Ancelotti win La Decima. Even after the tensions of his final seasons, his overall record remained stronger than that of almost every manager who followed him, cementing his place as one of the most influential figures of the Florentino Perez era. Now Mourinho enters a situation that feels so similar to the one that he took over in 2010. though now Mourinho has a lot more grey hairs. Back in 2010, the team lacked defensive discipline, tactical organization, and the collective mentality needed to consistently compete with Barcelona, because that was prime Barca. Despite having world-class individuals, Madrid repeatedly fell short when it mattered the most. 16 years later, and Florentino Perez saw many of those same problems returning. Once again, Real Madrid were overflowing with superstar talent, but the balance of the team had begun to disappear. The attack featured some of the world's best players. We saw it at the World Cup, yet too many defensive responsibilities were left to the backline and midfield. Opponents regularly exploited the space Madrid left behind after losing possession, while the team's work rate and defensive structure no longer matched the quality of its individual players. The biggest tactical issue could be seen by anybody sitting on their sofa. It was the left side of the attack. Both Mbappe and Vini always wanted to start from the left before driving inside onto their stronger right foot. Without clear positional discipline, these guys just drifted into the same areas, overcrowding the left half space while leaving the center of the box underoccupied, and the right flank, it was completely unused. Rather than stretching opposing defenses across the entirety of the pitch, Madrid often made themselves predictable by attacking through the same channels. The midfield created another structural problem. Jude Bellingham is at his best when he's bursting forward from midfield and crashing the box. However, those attacking runs regularly left huge spaces behind them. Whenever Madrid lost possession high up the pitch, opponents found it far too easy to counter through the middle because the central midfield lacked protection. The front line offered very little defensive support. Neither Mbappe nor Vini wanted to track the opposition fullbacks, leaving Madrid's defenders exposed in repeated 2-on-1 situations out wide. Combine that with the lack of midfield cover, and the team looked super vulnerable, especially since their best defenders were consistently injured. These were exactly the kind of problems that Florentino Perez felt Mourinho was uniquely qualified to solve. Just as he had done in 2010, Perez wasn't simply looking for another elite tactician. They tried that with Xabi Alonso and it didn't work. He wanted a manager with the personality to command the dressing room, challenge superstar players, and create a culture where the team always comes before the individual. More than anyone else, Perez believed Mourinho had the authority, the experience, and the strength of character to restore some discipline and accountability. Someone that Mbappe, the dictator, would respect enough to listen to. Mourinho's first priority was to bring structure back to the team. He immediately returned to his trusted 4-2-3-1 system, giving every player a clearly defined role instead of just allowing the front four to drift wherever they pleased. His philosophy was simple. Every player would understand exactly what was expected of them, both with and without the ball. The first major involvement has to be separating Mbappe and Vini. Mbappe is going to have to operate almost exclusively as the central striker, to use his pace to stretch defenses vertically and constantly threaten runs behind the back line. Vini, meanwhile, will have to remain high and wide on the left, where he can isolate defenders in 1v1 situations before attacking the box or cutting inside when the opportunity presents itself. In the middle, Bernardo Silva is supposed to become the player responsible for restoring control. The fact that he's press resistant, composed, and can dictate possession should provide the stability Madrid often lack. Playing alongside a holding midfielder, Bernardo will allow Jude Bellingham to operate as an advanced number 10, where he can continue to make his trademark late runs into the penalty area, while also being expected to recover into a compact midfield shape whenever possession is lost. Now imagine if they get Rodri too. The summer signings also transform Madrid's defensive balance. You got Marc Cucurella, who gives Mourinho a disciplined left back. These two were just a match made in heaven. Both love rage baiting. On the opposite side, you have Denzel Dumfries, who can provide relentless energy and physicality, while Trent is always an option to give you more playmaking on the right hand side. Then next to these guys, you have Konate, who adds pace and aerial dominance, and you also have Dean Housen, who's fantastic on the ball. In the attack, Diomane is going to give the team more balance since he can actually play on the right wing. Then they replace Gonzalo Garcia with Carlos Espi, who is a very good young striker. He offers Madrid a different profile in that he's a tall guy and excellent in the box. Great player to have as a backup to Mbappe. It's funny how in two different eras, Perez basically learned the same lesson. In both eras, Mourinho inherited a squad overflowing with world-class talent, but lacking balance, discipline, and collective responsibility. In both eras, Florentino Perez realized that having great players isn't enough to build a great team. So for both him and Mourinho, the formula has never changed. They know that at Real Madrid, talent can win matches, but it's discipline, organization, and collective sacrifice that wins trophies. If you enjoyed this video, I'm sure you will love this one too. Check it out right here.